When did you genuinely think you were going to die? What happened instead? Fell off a 70-foot cliff. As I was tumbling down, a voice inside my head said you are going to die, and I accepted that. Time seemed to slow down and it was very peaceful. Then I hit the bottom and everything hurt and I had a broken back and wrist. I'm okay now though. I was parasailing with a group of random individuals and the guy driving the speedboat slowly came to a stop. He started yelling. We ran out of gas. My first thought was that once I hit the water, this parachute was going to drag me down. I started unbuckling my harnesses. The guy kept yelling we ran out of gas. And I'm thinking, yeah, I get it. I'm working on not drowning. I get through about 2 buckles when he starts back up. Later I found out it was a prank. And they all thought I was daft for not responding when all I was really concerned with was survival. Lyme disease. Started out thinking I was having a panic attack. Then my heart started palpitating. Then I started to sweat. And my brain started to fog badly, can't describe it much better than that. Thought I was having a heart attack or something. Ended up losing 15 pounds in 3 days from sweating. Sleeping 20 hours a day. After 13 weeks on 200 milligrams doxycycline and 3 months to recover, I'm like 95% normal again. I do not recommend Lyme disease as something to try. I was skiing at a resort and went out of the gates that said you may die. I have plenty of backcountry experience and knew what I was doing. Problem was it was a complete whiteout on this peak and I got disoriented along with my 2 friends. We ended up dropping on the backside of the mountain instead of dropping back to the resort. We didn't get out till 10 p.m. We had to hike up a mountain to get out and get cell service for help. The snow was so deep we couldn't touch hard-packed snow with 180 centimeters ski. I had intense hypothermia, and both friends got frostbite pretty good. We actually thought we weren't going to make it and made a death video that I still have to this day. I was riding my motorcycle down the freeway and I suddenly see the truck in front of me swerve. He didn't swerve far enough and ran over the queen-size mattress that had fallen into the road from the truck in front of him. When he ran over it, the mattress lifted up in the air and flipped. That was the last thing I remember seeing. Next thing I remember, I see ground, sky, ground, sky, ground, sky. I'm rolling down the highway that was just filled with traffic. I could only think 2 things. Keep your arms tucked, stupid, and please don't let the car behind me run me over. As soon as I stopped rolling, I jumped up to see if I was about to be run over, and luckily the car was about 15 feet behind me, already stopped. I hobbled over to the grass in the median and collapsed. My helmet, jacket, gloves and the driver behind me saved my life. My grandma was driving me to the train station a rainy evening on a winding road with 1 lane in each direction. Suddenly a large truck coming in the opposite direction has its trailer skid, going 90 degrees on the front part of the truck and filling our whole lane with a mass of vehicles approaching at a combined speed of more than 100 miles per hour. I just had time to think. So this is how I die before my gran somehow took our little car into the ditch and up on the road again, at full speed, completely bypassing the oncoming wall of death. Mind you, this is Norway. The ditch was deep and loose, full of rocks and wet soil, with trees and boulders everywhere. That took a reaction time and wheel control worthy of a world-class rally driver. I was just sitting wide-eyed and dumbstruck in the passenger seat staring at my 78-year-old granny, when I finally came to my senses enough to stutter a "How the did you do that?" She just shrugged. The matter of fact had to go round, "Ya see, or else we'd be squashed," and never spoke of it again. To this day I have literally no idea how she managed that. And I never use "you drive like my grandma" as an insult. Indeed, few are worthy of that compliment. There was a time a few friends and myself were exploring an old train tunnel in western MA that was supposedly haunted. The tunnel was still active, but trains aren't super common today, so we figured why the hell not. There were 4 of us in total and 1 guy stayed behind at the entrance because he was smart enough to be uncomfortable with the whole idea. The rest of us went in. We walked in for about 5 minutes before the next guy went back, leaving just me and my friend we'll call Kirk. 10 to 15 minutes moving pretty slow because the ground wasn't really meant for foot traffic. Later we saw a light at the other end of the tunnel. Now this tunnel is long, so we knew it wasn't the other entrance. However, we weren't the smart ones, so we just assumed it was another group of people walking towards us. Nothing to be afraid of, so we kept walking. Well, a few minutes later we notice the other light isn't really moving. It's getting bigger but it's not moving around at all, which is weird if the light is being held onto. So now we're wondering if it's something else. Luckily, we're no fools. We both listen against the train tracks but hear nothing. Must be safe. Moving on. We're now deep in the tunnel. Our entrance is getting out of sight and the light on the other end is just growing. But now it's pretty bright. This is the point where things start to turn around. Kirk turns to me and asks if I feel a breeze. I did. Now we haven't felt any real breeze this entire time. I don't know how train tunnels funnel or block wind, but it's been pretty still until now. But you know what does move a lot of air down a train tunnel? Yeah, a train. So we start running back towards our entrance. But we've been moving for a while and we're pretty deep. And now the train is close enough that there's no doubt. You can start to hear it and make out the lights motion. Still running, and we're maybe halfway back when the train is getting damn close. I don't know what Kirk was thinking, but this is when I realized we're not going to get out in time. We get another 50 feet maybe and Kirk yells back at me he's maybe 5 to 10 feet ahead to get down. Not one to disagree, I dive onto the gravelly ground hard and hug the earth like an old lover. I have no idea how long I was like that before the train arrived. Probably 2 or 3 minutes, though it felt like 20 or 30. But when the train did reach us, it made itself clear. Long freight trains take about 5 to 10 minutes to pass. They're extremely loud and that's only increased by the tunnel. I've never been more scared in my entire life. Once it passed we managed to walk out, but the shaking didn't stop for probably half an hour. My hearing didn't come back entirely for close to a day. That was a few years ago and I still don't like being near train tracks. For clarification, we weren't between the tracks and under the train. Don't know for sure, but my guess is that would have been pretty fatal. We were between the tunnel wall and the tracks. Also, I believe it was the Hossack tunnel. As a young teenager in the late 80s, a friend and I were curious as to what would happen if you inhaled the gas used for Bunsen burners at school. I think it was butane, which can be fatal. Please, no one try to recreate this. Anyway, I started and took a couple of large breaths in. Started to feel lightheaded, then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" I'm feeling good. Lightheaded and smiling. I go to reply to him, but just as I'm about to, I hear a small tick sound, like a clock, and everything seemed to change very slightly. I'm confused for a second, then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer him from the first time obviously, so I go to answer him and then click. Everything changes again. Only now I recognize it. It's like my head twitched back into a position it was in 3 seconds ago. I'm sitting there puzzled, then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" "Yes." I try immediately shouting, but nothing comes out. I try to make a fist and stamp my feet, but I'm paralyzed. Then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" I'm now trying to shake my whole body, screaming, "What the is going on?" I try to stand. Then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" Back again. What else to try? I try answering, "No," as this was now the case, but nothing comes out. Then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay? Is this a joke? How? Why? It can't be. What?" Then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" Silence. Then my friend looks over to me and says, "Are you okay?" I've given up. I sit there silently waiting for the question again, but this time by even 2 of a second longer than before. I know it's different. I look up and say, "Yes." He smiles back and grabs the rubber tube for a turn. I put my hand out to stop him. Apparently no time passed from him asking the question and me replying, and he only asked once. Knows what happened. I'm fine now though. I was once gifted this water yo-yo ball thing when I was small, so the next day I went to the roof terrace of my house and started playing with it. I went all ninja with that. I don't know what happened, but the next moment I am lying at the ground with dust in my mouth and my head and neck hurts a lot. Turns out while playing with the yo-yo, the rubber string got around my neck and it chopped me and I fell to the ground. It was an instant blackout. There was no one on the terrace who could help me, but I gained consciousness somehow and quickly untangled my neck. I threw that away obviously. Fell backwards down my grandpa's home elevator shaft. For a split second I thought for some reason the elevator wasn't there, and that I was about to fall all the way down and land on my back, head on concrete. Wound up falling like 3 feet and landing on top of the elevator.